Hey there YouTube, it's Render, and today I wanted to run you through how I made that chess animation really quickly. So just start off with a clean slate in Blender, and I'm going to start by using a free add-on called Blenderkit to add a chessboard to my scene. So right off the bat, we have a perfectly modeled and textured chessboard, and if you don't know, Blenderkit is like Spotify for 3D assets. There are thousands of 3D models, textures, HDRIs, and even full scenes that you can just bring straight into your scene. For this video, you can use the free version, but there is a paid version which unlocks full access to the entire library of assets. There isn't a single add-on in the world I would recommend more than this, so if you wanted to pick that up today, go ahead and use my link in the description for 10% off. Anyways, I'm just going to put that in the middle here, and then you'll notice that these two rows of pawns have an array modifier, so I'm going to apply the array modifier. And now that these are one object here, I'm going to select both of them, go into edit mode, hit A to make sure all vertices are selected, right click, and then go to separate and into loose parts. Now these are each their own object. So now I'm going to make a new folder called pieces, and I'm going to hit A to select everything and deselect the board, and then I'm going to bring all of these pieces into the pieces folder that we just created. Next, I'm going to shift A and add a plane, and I'm going to position these so they're about 3 meters away from the board. I'm going to duplicate it and bring it over here so they're each about 3 meters away, and then I'm going to just bring one of them and then rotate it so the face is kind of pointing towards our board here in the middle. And then with one of these selected, doesn't matter which, you're going to open the particle properties and add a new particle system called particles. We're going to bring this number to about 500. You can always change it later if you want more or less. We're going to set the frame start to -400, frame end to 500, and then the lifetime to 1000 because we don't want any of them going away. Then we're going to open velocity here. We're going to set randomize to 2. We're going to tick the rotation box and open this drop down. Set phase to 0.3 and randomize phase to 0.3, and then hit dynamic because we want them to move while it's animating. Bring down the angular velocity, set this to random, and the amount to 0.5. Then just hit the render drop down, render as collection. And real quick, make sure that Blender didn't automatically add your planes to the pieces folder or else it will break. So bring that back into scene collection and then select the plane again, come down to where we were before at render and instance the collection pieces. And then to make these pieces bigger, I'm just going to bring the scale up to 1.5. I think it looks better when the pieces are slightly larger than what is the scale of the board. And you can always change this later if you don't like it. And then finally, we want to go to field weights and reduce gravity all the way to 0 because we don't want any of these pieces falling into the void as you saw earlier. And then just go ahead and select your other plane, go to particle properties, click new, and then change this to particles so it inherits the same settings we just made. Then to make it spin, just shift A and add a vortex force field. And because Blender just automatically puts things in folders, we're going to take that vortex out of the pieces folder and put it into the scene collection. And then now you can see that this vortex attracts all these pieces to the middle here. I was getting some weird results, so I'm going to make this vortex a little larger. This just changes the amount of space around the middle that the pieces rotate around. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a camera. Take the camera out of the pieces folder if it does that for you. And then I'm going to press R to rotate, X for the X axis, and then press 90 to make it 90 degrees. So the camera is pointing towards the chessboard, and then I'm going to bring it back pretty far. Now I like to split my scene into 2, so I right click the side here, hit vertical split, and now I can use the number pad 0 to snap to my camera here in the middle. And then with my camera still selected, I like to zoom in to probably about 300 millimeters of focal length. We can just make this a box for now, so I'm going to do 2160 by 2160, which is I believe 4K. And then if you play the animation, you can see that it's working. So just a few other things. I'm going to hide the pieces so they disappear from the board, and then I'm going to rotate the board like so. And then in rendered view, you can see that the background isn't black, so I'm just going to go to world properties here, click this, and bring the color all the way to black. And now for lighting, we're looking at our board straight on from the same angle as the camera. I'm just going to add a area light and bring it up here and then rotate it so it points towards the board, and then I'm going to turn up the power a little bit until I think it looks good. Maybe bring it out of the way more. I'm also going to add an area light and make it point towards the chessboard a little bit, kind of point up at it, and then lower the power so it's a little more of just a broad fill to make it so these shadows here aren't as dark, you see? And then the final lighting thing I want to do is add an area light, bring it to the back, point it directly towards the camera so you can see that this light is pointing straight at the camera. And then I'm just going to increase it a little bit and then increase the power. And you can see that it's added this nice outline to all of the pieces, and once we add our product, it will outline that as well. Now let's click on our camera again and click depth of field so we can get this nice focus look. And I'm going to click on our chessboard, and then for fewer distractions, I'm going to click output properties and render region just so we can focus on this more. It also might be cool to rotate our vortex a little bit so the effect kind of happens at an angle here. And then I think I want a more defined focus, so I'm going to go back to the camera settings and lower the f-stop. And then when you lower the f-stop, it puts fewer things in focus, but it draws more attention to the center. So I think I'm going to bring my f-stop to about 1. I'm going to come up to my render properties here. And then for a quick Blender hack you may or may not know, come up to your render properties, go all the way down to color management, and bring the look up to high contrast. I've also decided I want to increase my light here in the back a little bit more, makes it look quite a bit more dramatic. And then we can go to render properties and click motion blur and set the shutter to 0.3. Lower values are going to be less blurry, higher values are going to be more blurry, and then if you want it to go past 1, you just have to type it. But for now, 0.3 is going to do the trick. And then by the way, motion blur works by sampling the frames before and after the current one. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my samples to 500 for a quick test, turn off denoise and render. And I think I've decided I want quite a bit more blur, so I'm going to bring this up to 0.8. Alright, so yeah, now you can see here we have this super cool illusion of motion, and as a video this looks even better. I don't like how dark this is, so I'm going to turn up my light here a little bit more, and then I think I'm about ready to add the product. So for me, obviously I'm going to use my client's product, which I modeled out a couple months back. But for you, if you don't have a product, you can either make one or you can come up here to Blenderkit and you can just search for anything like a phone, or you could do a bottle of whiskey, which might look cool here. The reason I'm doing this chess scene is because my client's product is a body and mind enhancer kind of thing. So I figure that implementing this into a chess scene might be kind of cool, considering all of the metaphors about how chess is like life. But yeah, I'm gonna give this one another test render. I think that's looking super cool. So now to animate it. I'm just gonna do some quick animations. I'm gonna click my chessboard, add a rotation key. I'm gonna bring it to about 90 frames here and just rotate it like this, and then add another rotation key. So now you can see that that moves over time. I'm gonna right click and bring the interpolation mode to linear. That way it doesn't ease in or out. And then with my product selected, I'm gonna hit key, click location, add a key, bring it up about this far, go to the last frame, bring it up about this far, and click the location key again. And then now you can see it goes up, just like last time. I'm gonna select all with A, right click, interpolation mode, linear. And then I want this to rotate a little bit, so I'm gonna clear the location here, add rotation, and then add my first key, go to the end, and let's just rotate it like this. So now our animation looks like that, with the box kind of magically floating there in space while the chessboard rotates under it. So now for compositing, I'm gonna quickly render out another frame, and now we can composite this. So close that, open compositing, use nodes, bring composite over here. I'm gonna shift right click and then add a viewer node. I'm gonna connect this to the viewer node, press V a few times, and then Alt, middle mouse click, drag, and then I'm gonna add a glare, and then before the glare I'm gonna add a lens distortion. I'm gonna click fit, and then set dispersion to 0.02. This dispersion creates this neat glitchy effect here on the side. You can turn that up or down if you'd like. And then for the glare, I'm gonna set it to fog glow. I'm gonna set the size up to 9, and then I'm gonna hit high quality. If we're not noticing any glare, I'm going to bring the threshold down a couple clicks. This basically just determines how high the light value is that the glare modifier will then go affect. So now I'm going to animate the camera because it looks quite a bit better. I'm going to come straight above it and zoom in really far until I can kind of move it slightly to the left and to the back, and then add a location keyframe. And then about halfway in, I'm going to move it forward and slightly to the right. Add another location keyframe, and then forward and then slightly to the left again. And now it creates this illusion that the wind is kind of affecting the camera, which is a really good look. And then the last part of the compositing that we want to do is to add a hue saturation value node, and then set the saturation to 1.25, which is just going to make it pop a little more. And then from there, you're free to animate. Alright, so that's been a super quick animation tutorial. If you got something valuable out of this, please help me out with a like. And if you don't know me already, I am Renderer, and I make weekly content about making money with Blender. I know this video is a little off track from my normal content, but a lot of you guys requested an animation tutorial. I will do my best to answer any questions in the comments, but that'll be it for today. Until next time.